Hi, my name is Sohaib. I am a product manager at APImatic. With me, I have Adil, who is one of APImatic's co-founders. He has flown in from New Zealand to be here with us today. So he's extremely jet-lagged right now. So by the way, we did not intend to wear matching outfits. This was a pure coincidence.
You don't have a cap.
Yeah, I'm missing a cap. Um, so we're talking about open banking, simplifying open banking onboarding, and we're presenting a case study of what open banking APIs currently are, and where there are potentially areas, where they can improve. Okay. So APImatic is an SDK-first developer experience company. So we help API providers get developers onboarded quickly onto their APIs. If that's something that you're interested in, please come talk to us upstairs. We've got chocolates. Adil was kind enough to bring some from New Zealand. So we've got enough for everybody in the room, I guess.
Yeah, we do have plenty of it. But I don't know how to Yes. Successful.
Okay, yeah, so take it away, please.
Okay. All right, thanks for telling everyone about my jet lag. Thankfully, we did not talk about how many coffees I drank this morning. Anyway, I cannot see you, it's very bright here, but I know you are there. So, open banking and API onboarding, why should we care? So, tell me, how many of you have actually built a fintech application using open banking and API? Yes, one. Anyone else? Yes? Okay. So those who have built a fintech application must know the pains of connecting with open banking APIs. And those who have not, let me tell you a real story. So if you have ever used Slack integrations, then you know that they are a very convenient way to connect different software to get information. For example, if there's a support ticket, we have a channel at Slack. If there's a bug, I am the first one to know it. And if there's a credit card payment, my sales team, they get to know, okay, which customer has already paid. So we have connected different software. For example, we have Chargeify connected for credit card payments. But you might know that a large number of 5-figure payments and almost every 6-figure payments, they don't come via credit cards. They come via wire transfers. So this was my sales team a while ago. Every morning, they used to call the accounting team and say, like, show me the money. How many, like, we made this sales, has that amount arrived in our bank account? So I was thinking, like, the accounting team has to check the accounts and see the wire transfers. It was a hassle. Why not we use open banking API to filter the wire transfers and put it on our Slack? And that's what I thought. It would be very easy. So start with it. And we started doing it last year. So the expectation was like this, that it would be so simple. I would simply call like my voice assistant. No audio?
Your account balance is 20,000.00 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, let me run it again.
Alexa, ask my bank account for my account balance.
Your account balance is 20,000.00 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, so by the way, I'm wearing the same watch. If you want to see this demo, come upstairs. So that was the expectation. It will be very simple like this. But when we started building the application, we ran into this. The reality, the hard reality, that to make the first API call, a developer will have to go through all these steps. So you can see 5 big steps, and there are many sub-steps. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of onboarding time before we actually get our heads dirty. My purpose was to see transaction. And learning this was not my purpose. This was the requirement from our bank to just fulfill. So that's the complexity of open banking. that it takes nowadays months of development work, and the integration cycles are very, very long. And I want us to dig a bit deeper into the onboarding process. So let's put on the shoes of developers for a while. So imagine this cute little pirate is our developer, and like any traditional API, we provide an API reference and ask the developer to reach out to the treasure, which is the hello world. And just realize how many steps a developer needs to go through to reach to this first hello world. There are configurations, authentications, serializations, handling of errors. All these steps are required to make the first API call. And sometimes they take a lot of time, sometimes they take even more. So for sake of just saying, let's say a good developer takes 1 week to complete all these steps. And we want our API to be used by 1 million developers in its lifetime. So if we do simple maths, if one developer takes 1 week, 1 million developers will take 1 million weeks. That becomes 19,000 years of onboarding, which is not the main purpose of using our API. This is just the prereq of integration. So that amount of time is actually being consumed by developers. And putting in the bigger picture, we have an API. Here is a developer who's manually integrating into apps. And if we add more developers in this picture, the developers who are building APIs, the developers who are building apps, and the developers who are integrating it, just sum up all the dollars over there. Now, if anyone wonders why developers are getting rare, why it's very hard to find good developers, and why they are getting very expensive, show them this slide. So a question is that, is this model sustainable? Should we continue with manual integrations and keep spending dollars and keep producing more developers to get more APIs integrated? So to answer this question, let's have a look at the evolution of automobile industry. So in a typical car, anybody knows how many parts are there? Any guesses? Too many. 30,000. You remember my last talk. Yeah. So 30,000 parts are there, but not all of the parts are built by car vendors. They are manufactured by different vendors, while the car manufacturers, they assemble them. And we are seeing the similar trend in the software industry. So we have third-party API economy, where companies build APIs and software applications are being built by integrating those APIs. So if I ask, if you have any idea, how long does it take to assemble a car? Any guesses? 3 hours. 3 hours? That's very optimistic, by the way. Anyone else? 20 hours? This time you're close, yeah. So according to Toyota, Toyota takes around 29 hours, Honda takes 32, Chrysler takes 33. So on average, more or less, they're like 2 days to 3 days, 24 hours to 40 hours sometime I read. So that's about the cards. What about API integration? How long does it take? Yeah, I can listen to your giggles. Yeah, it's weeks, sometimes it's months. Why is it so? Why is it so? Why don't we apply the learnings of the automobile industry? Because it's a part of the evolution, right? So if I ask that you need to install these seats in your car, which of the tool will help your integration? Of course, drill machine, right? Not the screwdriver. So similarly, if we want our APIs to be integrated faster, we need to be providing right kind of tooling to our developers who are integrating the APIs. So empower them with right tooling. And we have already seen some success stories by some top APIs. What they do, they provide pre-built code in the form of SDKs and code samples so that their developers can quickly integrate the APIs. So let me show you 4 APIs over here. You know what's common among these 4 APIs? I'm sure you know Stripe and Twilio, and we have Algolia and Contentful as well. Any idea? So all of them are called unicorns in the API space. You know what's a unicorn, right? $1 billion valuation. So I was thinking like, I want to show the example of APIs which are very good, but good is subjective. So I picked a criteria of their valuation. That means there are millions of developers who are using these APIs, and they are making use of APIs to make a lot of integrations. So let's have a quick look at their docs. So this is Algolia. If you look at here, this says that this page documents the Algolia Search REST API. However, we strongly recommend using our official API clients, libraries, and integrations. So docs are given, but they are encouraging you to use official libraries. Why? Because Algolia knows that if I am a developer, I have an IDE in front of me, and I'm coding in a language. So if they speak my language, my task will be much easier. Twilio, this example has been quoted many, many times. Just look at the language references in this just one page. Moving on to Contentful, you can see list of platforms supported, and all-time favorite, Stripe docs. Again, you can see client libraries over there. And there is one more API which I read on Google that has recently become a unicorn. I did not know much about this API. I just Googled it, looked at the docs, and I found language reference, SDKs, everything over there. So what is, sort of conclusion here is that the best API docs are SDK first. These APIs care to speak the language of their developers, and they are providing the right kind of tooling so that they can quickly onboard with the API. So I am almost at the ending of my part of the presentation. Why? How SDK and right tooling help developers? Just look at this. So if your API is exposing a product, maybe it's like receipts, payments, billings, or whatever, a developer will have to learn the product, and then will have to learn REST API. For example, what HTTP method is supporting, about form parameters, query parameters, and about the security schemes. And then a developer will have to write application logic and API integration logic. So there's too much development work to do. What SDK do, SDKs just hide this middle part. They take away the burden of learning REST concepts, learning about APIs, and let a developer directly communicate with the product, which is the real aim. And how does it do? By hiding away, abstracting away the REST concepts, and putting all the methods and everything in the language agnostic, in the language as a library in the language which a developer is now coding in. So this essentially makes this journey a straightforward path from API reference to hello world without having to just go at multiple hops. So that's my part of presentation. Now I would like to invite Suhaib to show us a case study, which I'll let you, Suhaib, introduce.
Sure. Can you please open your slides? Okay. So the open banking case study that we did is focused on Payments New Zealand. Payments NZ is the governing body for open banking standards in New Zealand. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to sort of review what the New Zealand open banking standards entail and how well they're being implemented, and potentially figure out where there is room for improvement. So Payments NZ provides this, this portal called API Center, which is basically a model implementation of what a developer portal should look like for any partner bank who is implementing the Payments NZ standard. So, we wanted to do this case study, and we also wanted to make it interesting for ourselves. So, we set ourselves the objective of creating an Alexa skill using the PNZ API. Now, this could go very, very wrong, so I've got an Alexa here, and I'm going to try and demonstrate this live right now, but Alexa has trouble with my accent, so it fails sometimes. So let's give it a go. Alexa, please ask my bank account for my last transaction.
Sorry, I can't understand the command.
Try one more
Please
time.
say again.
Okay, let me try just one more time. Alexa, please ask my bank account for my last transaction.
Sorry, I can't understand the command.
Okay, I
Please
promise it
say
works.
again.
So you can come to our booth and I'll demonstrate it here. I had an idea that it was going to
Sorry,
fail.
I can't understand the command. Please say again.
Okay, so I just made a video because I had a hunch this was going to fail.
Please say again.
Alexa is really sorry, and so am I.
Your account was credited by amount 10.00 New Zealand dollars on Wednesday 26, and your remaining balance is 230.00 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, so that is the basic idea, to build an application that can fetch some basic transaction information from the PNZ model bank that they've set up. So the first step, of course, was authentication and authorization. So when we started implementing this application and building it out, that is the first step that we encountered. So so this is sort of the workflow for integrating with Payments NZ's API. What you see on your screen is basically the authentication steps, the user consent steps, and then creating or initiating a domestic payment. So if I segment these, the top enclosed in the red box is all to do with consent and authentication, and then the small box below is how you create a payment. So of course, I don't have to emphasize that the authentication is fairly involved. It's got a fair amount of work that you need to put in to get consent from users and authenticate them. So this is how PNZ handles this. They've got a Postman collection that they share with developers, and this Postman collection has just the authentication part has these 8 steps that you need to perform in order to get consent from the user, and then authenticate them, get an access token. So of course, this is hard to implement. This is a little intimidating when you realize how much work or effort is going to go into authenticating the user. That is a mandatory step before you can do anything with the API. So what we felt here that was missing was an SDK or a client library that would take care of this authentication, because otherwise you have to manually code all of this in your application. So we started thinking if we could do better. So we basically took the Postman collection, imported it into our SDK generator, and generated an SDK, an authentication SDK for this API. And that essentially brought down the implementation to just 2 lines. So the first line is where you import the library, and then the second is where you call the authentication method. There are, of course, a few configuration steps in between, but we were really able to shrink these steps, these 8 steps down into a very digestible, a very approachable process. So that is the first thing that we found where we could improve this process for developers or improve the developer experience of this API. Okay. So the second step was to integrate with the account information API, which is what we're using to fetch the transactions from PNZ's middleware bank. So there's a whole bunch of API endpoints that we can potentially use. Again, what PNZ provides is a Postman collection. So we simply found their API specification. We imported that into APImatic and generated a portal that basically takes care of, takes care of the entire developer onboarding journey. It takes care of the authentication. It includes an API reference, so an interactive API reference documentation, along with code samples and SDKs in 6 different languages, and this was all auto-generated. So this only took us an hour or so to do, because we didn't have to manually code anything to get here. Now, I planned to go into what this portal contains, but as Mehdi has informed me, I only have 2 minutes. So if you're interested in looking at this portal, please meet me after the talk, and I can walk you through it. So just to summarize, the missing pieces that we found in this case study, in the PNZ payments API, was missing getting started guides. So just no explanation whatsoever on how I can, make my first hello world call to the API, and then missing SDKs, which at this point are no longer a nice to have. There was a point when these were nice to haves, but that's no longer the case. And then usage examples or code samples of how I can use the SDK or how I can use the API to build an application. So these are all essential components of developer experience, and as Mark Boyd in his talk earlier today pointed out, developer experience is going to be the differentiating factor in the fintech and open banking industry. So these are all of the components that are going to help you to compete in the world of fintech, if that's something that you're interested in. So APImatic essentially tackles all of these components. And if you're interested in talking about SDK generation, SDKs, or developer portals, please come talk to us. That's all. If there are any questions, I'll take them now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for and kudos for trying a demo on stage. It never works. So it never, even the top companies, like worldwide companies who do things at large scale, when they do a demo on stage, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, Murphy's Law.
What?
Yeah, Murphy's Law?
Yeah, Murphy's Law. Yeah. If it can happen, it will happen, right? So definitely, right. We have time for just one rapid question. Scratching the head, right? Scratching the head. So at least I want to really also 20,000 man-years. This is 1 week, 1 million developers, 20,000 man-years. So imagine you have to pay Accenture or whatever to, like for consulting, or the customer have to pay. Like when you imagine how much does that cost, a man-year is like 100K approximately, right, of a developer. So that's a huge value that you save to your whole ecosystem. So 20,000 man-years, 100,000K, so like 2 billion something.
Something like that, yeah.
2 or 20, I don't remember. I don't see. But at least that's a lot of money, right, that you save for your ecosystem, right? Yeah. Thank you very much, Sohab, and thank you very much, Adil, for that. Yeah, we can have an applause for them, yes.
Thank you.